I'm here in the Brotherhood Cemetery in Woodbine, New Jersey, and I'm standing next to the grave of Hershlob Sabsovich. Sabsovich is really one of those characters that are unique to this chapter in Jewish history. He was born in Berdyansk, Russian Empire, near the Sea of Azov, quite far from where we would think that Jews normally lived. Born in 1861, sort of at the height of what we would think of Russian repression in the Pale. But he was part of a very large wave of Jews. He went there either as a young child or was born in Berdyansk, far from the centers of Jewish life, to participate and in some degree even facilitate the spread of the Russian Empire. His first years were rather unremarkable. He studied in the yeshiva there in Berdyansk. Later on, followed by a secular high school, gymnasium, a gymnasia, as they say. Later on, he went to study law in Odessa, which was actually quite a common profession for young, enlightened Jews of the time. But somewhere in 1881 and 1882, during the course of his studies, his whole worldview changed and his life trajectory changed as he began to hear and see in Odessa of the horrific pogroms that were sweeping the Russian Empire as a result of the murder of Tsar Alexander II. He witnessed, evidently before his eyes, the murder, rape, and looting of Jews, and like hundreds of other Jews, he came to the conclusion that the future for Jews was not in Russia. And in those same years, 1882, 1883, he became one of the founding members in Odessa of a radical Jewish youth movement called Am Olam, or Am Olam in Hebrew, people of the world, who set out to create utopian Jewish agricultural communes in North America. They were sort of the twin brothers and sisters of another movement that sprang up in Odessa, Sabsovich's city at the time, and in Kiev, and in Vilna, but they had their eyes set on Palestine. Those young people who were the friends and neighbors, relatives of Sabsovich and other founders of Am Olam, they became Chovavei Tzion, the lovers of Zion, and created the first modern Zionist agricultural settlements in Palestine, eventually becoming the land of Israel. I'm not entirely sure if Sabsovich went with his compatriots to found these new agricultural communes in North America with odd names like Bad Axe, New Odessa, Sicily Island, and Alliance down the road here. I'm not sure. But what I am sure of is two things. The first is all of those colonies failed. All of those very early communes failed within a few years. By the mid 1880s, they had all been mostly abandoned. And secondly, as a result of hearing about that failure, perhaps experiencing himself, he decided, Sabsovich, to go study agronomy in Europe, which he did for the next several years. Finishing his agronomy studies in Europe, Sabsovich emigrated, this time evidently for the final time, to the United States in the late 1880s. Eventually, he landed a job in Colorado at an experimental agricultural station as a chemist, Fort Collins, Colorado. He was part of the great wave of Jewish and non-Jewish immigration to the United States from Eastern Europe in those same years. The De Hirsch Fund located Sabsovich while he was working in Fort Collins, Colorado, and gave him a kind of offer that he couldn't refuse, to come to Woodbine and accompany, as an agricultural and economic professional, the first group of settlers sent by De Hirsch to be the colonists, the pioneer colonists here in Woodbine. He arrived with them in 1891-92. Subsequently, he became the director of the De Hirsch Agricultural School, and even became the first elected mayor of Woodbine, New Jersey, when it became an incorporated autonomous township in New Jersey. He was a trusted advisor to the De Hirsch Fund, and later on in his life became a kind of consultant or advisor to the De Hirsch Fund and the Jewish Agricultural Society for all sorts of future projects that they were building for Jewish agricultural colonization in South America and in Europe. Boris Bogin, prominent Jewish activist at the time and philanthropist, upon his death, I don't know if it was stated here or elsewhere, eulogized Sabsovich, calling him the practical idealist. So here, by 1915, the year that Sabsovich died, we have kind of a full circle of the Jewish experience, going from the old world, the Russian Empire, experiencing pogroms, gaining an education, a modern education, coming here to the United States, coming to this new frontier of the Jewish experience, and eventually becoming a key part of a new generation of Jews who were skilled in agriculture, willing and able to spread that knowledge to other Jewish farmers springing up around the world.